I have to see, like, I either have to feel an implant or you have to make more money than me. That's usually the way that it goes. Or I have to know you really, really, really well and feel very, 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 very confident. Because I'm not about to get fucking baby trapped by some random person like, oh no, like I'm totally on birth control. Like, no, why the fuck would I do that? Why would I jeopardize my entire fucking life to come with somebody? Kind of wheezy to say this after Max left. That's the exact same thing that I said while he was in here. Goodbye. I don't believe Destiny goes this far. I think he talks a good game, but Destiny would risk it all for a girl he's chatted a lot with in DMs. Abba, you are dead fucking wrong. You have no idea. I can actually lose a boner thinking about coming in a girl. Like, it is horrifying to me, especially, no offense, the type of women that I've gone through in my past. It would be life-ending to get somebody like that pregnant. Like, fuck, I don't know if there's somebody you could ask, but like, there are girls that I've gotten into fights with because they have actually gotten offended or upset, where it's like, oh, like, where do you want to finish? And it's like, oh, I don't know, like, oh, I can do this or that or that. And she's like, oh, what about a signing? It's like, oh, I don't know. And like, what do you mean you don't know? It's like, oh, you know, I just don't normally do that type of thing. Like, there have been some women that have gotten like upset at me, 100%. But like, I can finish anywhere. It's just an orgasm. Like, is there an example of someone that I've fought with? There are some people that I do trust though. Like, if I meet somebody, like, I'm not trying to say that like I wouldn't trust anybody ever about anything. Like, there were a few people that I knew in LA that were really cool. Like, there was a girl I knew, she was going to law school. Like, I think I'd even met her parents a couple times. Like, she seemed like she's super life together, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, sure, like, I'll trust, like, probably a person like this is okay. Another girl I knew in LA that was loaded. She lived in, like, in Justin Bieber's neighborhood, going to top 5 law school now. Like, yeah, I trust that girl. If I've known somebody for a long time, like years and years, but for somebody that I've just like been talking to for like a week or two, and then like we meet and we hook up, like I'm probably not like finishing inside that person. It's just, the risk is way too huge, and I would kill myself. I would kill myself if they. The thing that I always think about when I put myself in a situation is like, okay, if it goes wrong, and I was talking to myself in the future, would I say, man, that really sucks, or would I say, man, you're a retard, you know? Like, if Melina would have baby trapped me, we've been dating for 4 years. If I were to tell myself that 5 years and I'm like, damn, Melina baby trapped, I was like, damn, that sucks. Like, she got you good. Like, she dated you for 3 or 4 years, came to the US, gave up her whole shit. Like, damn, you got, right? But if I meet like a girl at TwitchCon and we go back to my room to mess around and she's like, no, trust me, baby. Like, oh, like, look, I got pills in my purse. Like, of course I'm a birth control. And then she gets knocked up and I talk about it like 3 years from now when I'm on the hook for child support. And I'm like, bro, you nutted at a girl you met first night at TwitchCon? What the fuck, dog? She showed you pills? Good job, dude. Good one. Like, I feel like a dumb, I feel like an idiot. You ask her where you should bust during? Yeah, of course. What are you, fucking silent when you're fucking a girl? Yeah, when you get close, you let her know. Yeah, hey, I'm gonna come soon. Like, where should I finish? Or what do you want me to finish? Or what do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I'll ask. Yeah, sure. You just keep going and you're like, you nut inside her and you're like, hey, I hope it's okay, but like, haha. Get the fuck out of here. You're about to trigger the fuck out of me, aren't you?
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if you really do what you say, that's impressive. Because I'd probably argue that like before 25, had like little to no dick discipline. So I don't know.
Oh, dude. Oh, no. Before 25, I'm sure I fucked up. Absolutely. No. Okay. For sure. Absolutely. Before 25, there might be some little Stephen Bunnell III's out there that I was just a retard about. I don't think I was as much before 25 for sure. But today, like 30 and onwards, I think I've been pretty, or no, probably like 27, 28 and onwards. I've thought about it before. But yeah, I'm sure like 22, 23, when I was like first starting to like hook up and get around with people, I wasn't thinking about this much for sure.
Because I hear some people talk about like sexual health and doing everything properly, and I'm like, that's great. I'm like, but y'all never was around and did anything wild before? Because the way that people talk about it, I don't know if it's real. So sometimes I hear people like, oh, you always want to ask for STD checks and all this other stuff. I'm like, I don't believe you do that every time. I think you say that outwardly because it's the right thing to say. But the truth is, most people are not doing that. I know because when I was out there, I would get tested, and then I would ask the girl she'd gotten tested, and she's like, yeah, I did. And then as we dated, I found out she hadn't been tested in like 6-7 months. Yeah,
for sure. So, that happens. I usually tell people, like, I don't ask.
Most people will lie.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't ask every single time. Mainly because I don't even like, because I don't know if I would ever believe him every time. Like, I might ask, And you might say yes, but I'm probably not going to ask you for your paperwork. And then even if you do, I'm not going to know, like, have you hooked up with anybody since then? Usually my general advice to people is, like, just get tested, like, every few months or, like, every partner or 2 or 3 or whatever the fuck. Like, just make sure you're getting, like, semi-regularly tested, right? Like, more than you go to the dentist if you're having a lot of casual sex. Like, if you're telling me that, like, you get STD tested, like, once every, like, 5 years, probably not good. But if you're telling me you get tested, like, once or twice or 3 or several times a year and you have, like, then you're probably fine. Like, yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I'm, like, yeah, walking out, like, asking for every single girl's paperwork. For sure.
Right. Which is not the worst way to go about stuff. But the truth is, this is how people are. They get a test, then they have like a serious partner.
Yeah.
And then they date one person. And then they f you, right? Or maybe they f another 2 people in the middle. But they didn't get tested that whole time. They assume that the partner didn't cheat. Okay. Then they assume that the person they hooked up with, that they had known even while they were in a relationship with the other person, didn't do anything shady because they told them they did. So they're operating off of a lot of like, I think everything's okay. And that's how people are going around saying that I'm good, I'm clean. But I've seen from own people's sex habits as well as my own, but just also observing other people. It's not true that people are practicing safe sex when they say it. And I think that's how most people end up catching STDs oftentimes, is from people who think they're clean and they're confident they're clean, but fucked around with the wrong person.
Yeah, it just depends on how much you get tested. Like, as long as you're getting tested every few months, you're probably okay. Just make sure you're not going, like, months and months between. Or not even months and months, but, like,
there's no reason.
Between, yeah.
Most people are not going to get tested that often because even if they have sex every once, like you and I are having sex often, right?
All the time.
Most people are, just plowing pieces, right? So, but most people are not fucking that often, so they don't feel the need, and they don't feel at risk for it.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. I should have just said this because I'm not even. The problem isn't the STDs, because gonorrhea and chlamydia are who the cares, especially because a lot of people are asymptomatic. The reason why I say you should get tested every so often, it's not even necessarily because of transmission. The problem is that if you have chlamydia or gonorrhea and you carry these for a long time, they can start to do permanent damage to your reproductive system. That's the reason why you get tested, like more than like, hopefully more than once a year, but at least like a couple times a year, or just to make sure that you're not carrying these for long times. For men, I think chlamydia, can destroy your seminal shit or whatever, and you can become like almost infertile, your tubes or whatever. And then for women, I think chlamydia can start to destroy your something in your ovaries or something with your, like it can make you infertile as well. That's the reason why you get tested. It's not just so that you never have it. Like if you get chlamydia or gonorrhea, it happens. Who cares? Just make sure that you're not carrying it for a long period of time, destroying your body.
Yeah. I think most people's knowledge of like sexual health is like limited to none. When guys ask me about it, they're like, yeah, you just get a pill. But like you said, it can affect your reproductive abilities, or it can have other long-term effects that like really fuck up your urinary tract and things like that. So one thing you want to definitely get rid of. Unfortunately, those are the ones that you can get rid of easily. There's some that you can't, and there's other ones that also, like, I don't know. I've never had an encounter or getting anywhere close to stuff like syphilis or weird stuff like that, but apparently those things have extreme side effects as well. They're common in some pockets of the world, so it just takes one wrong vacation, just takes fucking with the wrong person. So I mean, the truth is, and I think this is what I accepted a while ago, is that when you're out there fucking, you're rolling dice. Now there's certain things that might elevate those risks, certain types of people that you might be fucking with that might elevate those risks, but the truth is, there's just risks with hooking up with people. Period. Sure,
but I would say as a guy, you should be minimizing the fuck out of your, at least as a celebrity. I think as a normal guy, I'd feel a little bit differently, but now as like a little e-celeb or whatever, I think you should be really careful about getting women pregnant. That might just be me being paranoid, but like, oh my god, dude, if some women like baby trap me, I would kill myself, especially because
you know what I think happens? I don't think they baby trap people. You know what my suspicion is?
Dude, abortion trap? That would be so sick. If I was a woman, I would like DM like 6 guys and be like, you remember when we last year? Give me 10 grand or I'm gonna carry this baby to term just to see who pays up. I would. Sorry, guys.
So this is what it is. Once they get pregnant, they start feeling all types of stuff and they change their mind.
Sure.
It's not that they trap somebody, and I think as a man, it's kind of tough to understand because you're on the receiving end where you're essentially being brought into having the responsibility of taking care of a child that you didn't want, and that even if she agreed beforehand, let's say she said to you, I don't want a baby, I'll never want a baby, yada yada yada. She gets pregnant, all the hormones get injected, she thinks about having a child, naming it, raising it, all the fucking childhood things she never got to live, and she starts having second thoughts. It's fucked up, absolutely, because as a man you get dragged into it. But to me, on my side, there's an understanding I have of why they wouldn't go through with the abortion.
Yeah, I would instantaneously. I would do everything I could to manipulate and coerce that woman to have an abortion, or she'd be taking a couple of short trips down some long stairways, and then I would never talk to her ever again. I would never, ever, ever you for even pretending to do that to a man. That is one of the worst, most insane fucking things. I'm empathetic. I understand you may have some crazy feelings going through your mind, but listen, dude, you know, hormones are temporary. Child support is for 18 years, okay? That's some insane fucking shit to put a guy through. That shit. Be an adult. Don't like being emotional is not an excuse for everything. If women want to be taken seriously, even when they're on their periods, which I think they should be, then you need to be able to be an adult, be taken seriously when you're fucking pregnant. Like, make some adult choices, okay?
Okay, all right. Hypothetical. Let's say she changes her mind. She wants to keep it, but she says you don't have to be involved any type of way. And she swears to her dying day she'll never make you involved.
Man, that's a shitty thing to do to somebody, because now they're gonna have a kid that like is gonna maybe seek him out one day, and they don't know how they're gonna feel about that. Yeah, go find a guy that wants to be the dad. Like, that's just such a shitty thing to do to somebody. That's so horrible.
Okay,
and it's a horrible thing to do to the kid. Like,
just to make it easier for you to stay away, what if she names the child Vouch?
It's just such a horrible thing to do to everybody involved. Why? Like, that's a horrible thing to do.
Name the child Vouch or birthing him?
Like having the kid when the guy doesn't want to, and when you are saying the kid is never going to see the guy and everything. Like, why would you do that? That's just so fucked up. Why would you do that to the kid? Why would you do it to the guy? Why would you do that to yourself? Go find a husband that wants to have a kid with you, or abort that kid and just go to a semen factory and get the artificial insemination or whatever. Like, Jesus.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's a tough one.
It's not tough. Sorry. I don't think it's tough. I think it's really simple. Like, if the person says they don't want to have a kid, don't have a kid with them. Like,
yeah. I think maybe it's because I'm getting older and I haven't had a child yet, so I think my thoughts are like wanting to keep shit and become more and more prevalent. I don't know if you noticed this, but actually, well, you probably had the opposite experience. You've already had a child.
Yeah, I'm good, dude. I got one. I don't even fucking know. Melina.
So sometimes you're inside the sugar walls and the girl's like, this what happened. She was Dominican too, which is funny because I'd heard a joke the week prior. But we were going at it. And then I was like, you know, I asked her, like, where'd you want me to come? And she said, inside. And I'm like, I thought you weren't on birth control. She's like, yeah, I'm not. There was like a 1 second pause. I'm like, damn. That shit was kind of sexy, not gonna lie. And then the second I was like, oh, hell no. And I pulled out and just busted on her bed.
Yeah, obviously. Getting people pregnant is hot as I don't disagree, but that's a question of sexual fetish versus response. Listen, dude, I had a girl that we did a lot of stuff like that, okay? And I'm not proud. I have really good endurance, and I passed most of the tests. We did a lot of crazy shit like that. And I'm going to say, when we broke up, the next guy she was with got pregnant in like 4 months. And I'm like, holy shit. So, I mean, like, yeah, people do it for sure, but it's not suggested, and it sure as hell isn't. But yeah, obviously, there's probably some like primal thing built into humans where like getting people pregnant and shit is obviously odd, right? Or I imagine most people feel that way, or maybe it's a rare kink that you and I share.
Do you have that feeling?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I don't know if you had that feeling just because like the way my very close friend, he had a kid, and like, you know, not only was under great circumstances, and like he's traumatized by the whole experience. So I didn't know if like that happens to most folks. But I guess that's I only noticed this change as I got older. When I was younger, I never even was like tempted by busting inside of things like that. And as I got older, it was like a shift that happens. You know how like women, as they get older, I think their biology changes, and all of a sudden they get this desire to have kids. And like I know women who even see kids and like their ovaries are affected by it for some reason. I wonder if dudes have that same thing when it comes to like busting inside.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's a thing as you get older. I remember feeling that way growing up or whatever, that like some women seemed gross and like teenagers were attractive forever or some shit, or I was always worried that'd be a thing. But then by the time you hit like 25, 30, you see like some single moms like, holy shit, she looks like she needs another kid. No, I'm just kidding. But no, yeah, I know what you mean. There's like there's definitely a feeling.
Yeah, it completely changes. Like I've noticed that like before I used to be like mouth all the time. That was my favorite thing. And then all of a sudden I just, you know, start to get closer to 30. I'm like, I don't need to leave the walls. I could just stay right here.
Sure.
And it's just become and I don't know if it's because mentally I'm in a different place or if it's like actually biological, but like the desire for children also seems to shift. I don't think it's as intense as like I hear some of the women my age talk, but I've noticed that there's like a stronger desire. Do you go through the same thing, or do you feel like because you've already had a child here, you're not gonna at all?
Am I going through the same thing where I want, because no, I don't feel like I want another one now. I already have Nathan and he's already long distance, so yeah. But I mean, like if Melina wants one at some point, I probably will. But I think the problem is I put so much time into work and everything right now. Like I barely have time for even Melina and Nathan. Like to have another kid, have time for Melina and Nathan, not typical Melina. Sorry, that came out weird.
Okay.
But,
I came in on the trail end of that last discussion, but I heard you guys talking, and it sounded like it was a clarify for me if I'm wrong. Circumstance where he was about to sleep with somebody, they wanted to see the test, and he's like, "No, if you don't trust me, then we don't need to have sex."
yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, and you were essentially making the point that that's kind of manipulative.
Depending on the circumstance, it feels like it could be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it. Is it the first time they're sleeping together?
Well, in this circumstance he gave, in this story, it seems like it would be okay, because he's saying it was a person he knew for a year. So I could be more empathetic then, but the issue I had was...
in a relationship?
I guess not. They were just friends for a year, and then they wanted to have sex or something. I don't think they were dating for a year, but I could be wrong. But the issue that I had was that later on he gave the take that you should know by the second date if you want to fuck somebody or not. So like, if it's a person you know for a year, I can be a little bit more understanding. But if it's somebody that you've like been on a second date with, I don't know if that's enough time to know whether you trust somebody to have like birth control or STD test or not. Like, yeah.
You know when I think it is manipulative? I think if you get to the point where... Actually, well, you can make the case as manipulative, but I think if you get to the point where you guys are making out and you guys are doing stuff and you're about to fuck, okay? Like you guys are starting to undress each other and it's like, wait, are you tested? Can I see the test or whatever? If you do it at that point, I think that's when it's pretty.
Yeah, for sure. If you're having like a text conversation like the night before and like, hey, are you tested? And you're like, no. Or you're like, yeah, and she's like, can I see? And you're like, no, I don't have sex with people to do something. That's probably fine. If you're like long distance, it's like, when I say long distance, like you're not like in the heat of the moment ever, yeah. But the closer you get to that moment, if you say it like during a date, that it starts to feel a lot more weird. And maybe that's just me being autistic, but like, I think you're in tune to this. Like when you're on a date with somebody and they like you, you can move that person really far outside of their comfort zone, and they'll probably go along if they like you enough. And I try to avoid situations, I guess, like that with people, especially if I know the person really likes me. There's a lot of things I can ask that they wouldn't be comfortable with normally, but they'll do it because like they're around me and it's in the moment and blah blah blah. Yeah, and I think
So the whole idea of withholding things within the dynamic of a relationship is generally a pretty strong tactic if you want to manipulate them to do what you want. Meaning, if you want something from somebody, they say no, you withhold something else to let them know they're being punished almost until they give in to what you want. I'm not saying that's inherently what he was doing or anything, but that can have that effect. You know what I'm saying? So for example, let's say you want to sleep with a girl and she says no, then you refuse any form of affection with her. She may see that as like she's being punished, so she has to give in to what you want, right? I think that extends to like different forms of action that you can take in any relationship where if you don't get what you want, yeah, there's ways that you can take away things to make the person acquiesce to what you want to do. That can definitely be very manipulative.
Although I will say, you have to be careful because you can, like, there are things where it's legitimate to withhold things. It just depends. Like, if a woman feels like a guy is like treated her like shit all day, and then at the end of the day he's like, okay, hey, let's fuck. And she's like, no, you dude. Like, I don't think that's like manipulative on the woman's part. Like, she might just be like upset and she's like, I don't really feel like right now. Like, so those dynamics get a little bit complicated, you know.
No, what I'm talking about is most of the dynamic where, so I gave you the example of the guy who wanted to sleep with the girl. The girl says no, then I'm like, cool, like don't touch me or whatever. It's like, fine, we can fuck. And then you're like, all right, come on. It's like once you get what you want, then you flip it over. Like, it can look a little bit sus from my perspective. But yeah, that's probably. I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you're going to sleep with somebody, you should be completely transparent. Just show them the test. And I feel like that's the best thing, mostly because I don't know how you can be out here sleeping with people and just assume that they have done STD tests. I think most people operate under a certain level of shame, a certain level of like discomfort when it comes to talking about sex in general. I think seeing the test is like the only real indication you're ever going to have 100% that the person's actually tested or is clean, or else you're just going on like, oh, do I trust me? Well, I'm like, do you trust yourself to make sensible like decisions sexually? Because I don't think most people make sensible sex decisions. So I don't know, I just think I've actually done it enough times where I was gonna sleep with somebody and I told them to get tested. We literally had to show each other's papers via text, like screenshots. And to me, this is something I've only been doing recently that I thought most people would be uncomfortable with, but I've actually learned that most women do appreciate it, which I think is something that you told me.
Oh yeah, it's that weird. I even felt that way growing up. I think I even made fun of people like Lacey Green talking about like affirmative consent and shit. I was like, this shit is so cringe. I've never in my life lost a woman in the moment because she felt like me like checking in on her was cringe ever. But I know there's a lot of women that because I have checked in and we've like pumped the brakes a little bit, and then eventually like they felt safe to continue. Now, obviously, there's going to be like ways to do this that's like okay, and ways it's going to be ultra cringe. Like I'm never going to be like, can I touch your leg? Can I touch your boob? Can I put my finger in you? Can I put two? Like it's never going to be cringe shit like that. But like maybe like on first contact, like is it okay if I have a hand on your lower back, whatever? Like stuff like that. Like you know, like just every now and then. It's just good to know, right? The thing that I always stress, and it's hard to know this obviously because it's like a big social signaling thing, is that like the most important thing is the other person always needs to feel like you're gonna stop if they ask. That's like the thing that's important. Sometimes like showing a little bit of restraint makes them feel like you will if they ask, and that's like at the end of the day, that's the most important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. What do you think makes people so uncomfortable about having those sex talks?
Depends. For women are just uncomfortable with everything having to do with sex because the problem with women is when you say no to a guy, or you try to pump the brakes, or you just, even if a woman wants to have sex with a guy, but she just wants to be like a little bit chill, there's a huge fear that every barrier is an invitation for a debate. And this is why girls will ghost guys instead of just like saying like, hey, like it didn't work out, like blah, blah, blah. Like when a girl says no, oftentimes it feels like to her, because she's probably had experience with guys do this, that if you say, I don't know if I'm gonna do this right now, the guy will be like, oh, well, why not? Like, didn't you say you were cool earlier? Like, oh, well, I thought everything was okay. Like, didn't you like blah, blah, blah? Like the guy will get white eggs. And you're in this like really weird position where it's like anytime you try to slow the guy down at all, he turns into this like puppy that's like crying and whining and you feel like shit. And it's easier to just kind of like shut the fuck up and go along and get fucked than to actually like advocate for yourself at all, because the guy's always gonna make a big fuss about it.
So you feel like the reason why women don't feel comfortable bringing this up is because men get weird about it?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Do you think that most women are responsible with their sexual health?
Not really. I don't think most people in general are. Unfortunately, the onus is kind of on women because they're the ones that get harmed more than men in these circumstances, right?
I definitely think they have more to lose, absolutely. But why do you think most people in general are not responsible with their sexual health? I'm asking about the factors that lead to it. We have so much accessibility to STD clinics nowadays, resources online. If people want, they can just talk to their doctor. But I feel like there's a reluctance to even do that a lot of times. So I'm asking you, why do you think people are uneasy about that?
It's probably one of those things that's like multivariate. There's probably like 1,000 reasons why. I would say like one of the big reasons is honestly education. Like I don't think we talk a lot about this growing up. Like I said, like I was embarrassed. The first time I got an STD, I was like 31 years old and I didn't know anything about it. I was embarrassingly fucking retarded. I was super triggered too. I tested positive for chlamydia and I thought I was gonna have it for the rest of my life. I didn't know that you got a shot and it was gone in a week. And I was 31 years old and like having like a decent amount of sex and getting tested and everything, I still didn't know much about like the individual STDs. I can't believe I made it that far without it fucking knowing. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and I was gonna respond to my YouTube chat earlier, we're saying stuff in my chat. STD tests in America are a luxury item. The big issue is STD tests costing $750 plus. Neither of those things are true. I'm pretty sure, I think, at least in California, I think you could go into a Planned Parenthood and you can get tests for free. And also, I'm pretty sure there are other places you can get STDs for like $30 or $40. Like, yeah, they're not expensive at all. $750 plus. That's if you like. Usually, when I get tested, I'll do the full battery because I'm checking for herpes and everything because I don't have either of those yet. Not that I don't even think it's a big deal to do necessarily, but the full battery of like a blood test and everything is usually like $300 or $350. It's not $750 plus, and that's for the full like HIV, syphilis, and herpes, and like everything else too. So STD tests are not that expensive.
Yeah. I know that a lot of the cities that I've been in, at least major cities in America, they generally have some clinics that offer this stuff for free, just because for most of the states, STD being rampant are really bad for the healthcare system in general, and they know a lot of people are priced out, so they have a lot of initiatives which offer free testing, so you just have to kind of search that up and look that up in your area. The wait times are generally a bit longer. People there are generally more poor, but if you can handle being around peasants, you guys should 100% go. I go to a private clinic near me, and it's like pretty cheap. It's like $50 for the full battery of tests, and so yeah, I would tell anybody who's listening, if you think you're priced out, that isn't true unless you're in like a small area. Even then, I don't believe those price that you mentioned. I was just looking to Google like free STD checks in your area. Generally, just places for that specific. Somebody mentioned shame, and I know as an immigrant that's definitely true. I think coming from like a very religious background, everything sex related was absolutely taboo growing up, and so we had this kind of culture where everyone fucked, but nobody talked about fucking, and so it was really kind of bad. Where like I didn't know about condom use, I didn't know about masturbation. I remember the first time I had a wet dream, I was confused what was happening. Like I didn't understand any of this stuff, and so I ended up learning from the internet, which is like not always the best way because you can talk. On the forums when I was growing up, like that was a weird place to learn about sex. Guys, we've always given you bad information. So a mixture of like shame definitely plays into it. And I think it's unfortunate. But thankfully through like education, like Destiny mentioned, I did learn a lot. And if you guys are wondering how you guys can broach the subject of STDs to women you're seeing or starting to see, if you just let them know in a responsible manner, so like one way I used to do it, or one way I still do it, is I would just tell somebody like, hey, listen, I would actually, do you ever do this before the first date?
No, well, it depends on the types of conversation we're having beforehand, because I don't want to sound like ultra presumptuous, unless I've like already been like fucking like sexting somebody or like talking hardcore about it. But like, okay, yeah, if it's like a casual, like if I've got like, let's say somebody at Twitch comes like, hey, we should get dinner. I'm like, okay, cool, and I like DM them and I'm like, hey, just so you know, here's my STD result. Like that would be like really forward.
No, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. But one thing I like to do, if I was speaking to somebody for, let's say if I meet them some online dating, sure, and we just talking for a few weeks, or maybe 2 weeks. If I feel like there's a lot of chemistry, I'm like, listen, I think there's a lot of chemistry, there's a strong possibility we may or may not have sex. And so I always like to be responsible about this stuff. So I've been tested. And if you want to see my test, I got it on me. And if you haven't been tested, I'd like it for you to do the same. Generally, by broaching it in that manner, they're very open and very receptive to it, especially when I take the initiative and then I show my test first. I've noticed that they're like, oh, you're really serious about it. I've had like multiple women say like, oh, you're really serious about this. I was like, yeah, I'm very serious. And like, all right, I'll go get tested. And they're very excited about the fact that I'm responsible. And the reason why I started to see them saying that, why they seemed excited, is because I think for them, they hear folks talk about it, but they very rarely see folks actually take the test or show the test or stuff like that. Sure. So even women are sometimes surprised when I actually show them. So for anybody listening, if you guys are thinking about doing it, it is possible. Give it a shot. But obviously, like Destiny said, don't be presumptuous. Speak to the person a lot. And if you're unsure, go through one date with them and then bring it up. But yeah. Like if I was going to see somebody, we've been talking for 2 weeks, we've already been flirting a lot, like, you can kind of tell if you're going to fuck.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? You can kind of tell. And so, yeah, I've definitely brought... hold on. Actually, no, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I encourage everybody to try to do that. But anyways, I won't keep you. I'll let you get to Mr. Grover.
Okay, have fun. Be careful, bud.
Yes, sir.
Inside your body, you need to be able to believe me when I tell you something. And if you can't, then like I don't want to. But I was really enraged. We didn't have sex. I was really angry about it.
Okay.
So that was the conversation.
Phrases things in the worst way.
Come on.
Okay, so I guess we got stuck on the point of whether it is a test. It seems like you find the idea that being called a test, like an attack or demeaning, and maybe it is. And then, but I kept saying like, it seems like you're upset, and you'd be like, no. And I was like, it seems like you're mad, and you're like, no. And I was like, so you're feeling anything bad about this conversation? You're like, no. And then immediately after the conversation ends, you like look at your chat and you're like, that was weird. And you're like obviously super upset, and then you don't fucking talk to me for 3 months. So whatever I was annoyed about in the hypothetical idea of dating you has now taken over our friendship, or I essentially derailed our friendship at this point. Like I can't really even think of you as a friend now, because how can we be friends if you can't even tell me when you're obviously upset with me, on stream or off stream, for 3 months? I don't see how you can have a functional... You can't even be functionally colleagues with somebody if you're going to be talking about stuff like consent and and like the difficult political conversations we have that are going to cause hurt feelings and anger from time to time if we can't talk about it.
Let me know when you're finished.
He's finished, obviously. That's fucking obvious. Go. Go backwards
Okay.
and forwards.
So, first off, that is not how the conversation played out. You were very specific in not just personalizing it, saying that it was me who was doing a test. It was me who was doing a power play. Secondly, that I initially wasn't annoyed with you, but as the conversation went on, it just seemed like you kept pushing and pushing that it was a test, it was a power play, and you were trying to get some sort of negative reaction out of me. And initially I was just like, this feels very uncomfortable. And afterwards I was irritated, and when you messaged me later, you said, like, we haven't been talking. I said, yeah, I feel like our last conversation left things in a really weird place.
Okay, again, I'm
Sorry
describing...
to interject, but there's a confusion that we need to correct. Okay? People are saying you were in a relationship. Just to confirm, as far as I know, you weren't in a relationship, right?
At that point, when I was talking with Mr. Girl,
As in, you weren't in like a sort of romantic, sexual kind of engagement, right? You were just friends, correct?
With me, yeah, we were not...
no, not with Mr. Girl, with somebody else, yeah.
We've
yeah.
never had...
But people are confused. They think you were together. More drama. I'm trying to
No, we've
squash
never
drama.
had any
Okay?
kind of sexual relationship.
No.
Okay, to me, the argument was about a semantic labeling of... You just described the behavior, which is, I tell men I need time. If they don't accept that, then they're gone.
Okay.
No, I clarified in that conversation.
Well, you said this
I
just now.
clarified. Right, but in that conversation,
Wait,
and
I'm trying to say something. You said this just now. You said, if I ask men for time, and if they don't accept this, then they're gone. We're done. And you said that that is the reason you were single for 4.5 years.
I don't know if that was the primary reason, but I said I don't
that.
mind being right.
You said
No,
there's
but
a reason. You didn't mean there's a different reason. You meant what I just described is the reason.
That's one of the reasons,
Okay,
right?
that's fine.
Right?
This
but
week, I'm just,
I've been,
but
but
you
I'm
just
my,
said these things. I haven't even
my main
responded.
point. Can I just let me
No,
clarify?
I don't want you to clarify.
I let
want
you
to...
clarify. I let you clarify. You can let
Okay.
me clarify one
No,
time.
I don't want
Listen,
you to. I want to finish.
I can
what
split the
I'm saying.
difference on this. I understand.
Let me clarify one thing.
Why?
Okay? Because I let you clarify. So you get to interject whenever and clarify whenever you want, and I don't get to?
I think, look,
No.
I'm not
guys,
playing
you're
this fucking game.
listen.
No, I get to
Guys,
interject and
I-
clarify when you say I'm allowed to. Oh, and you're asking to clarify, and I'm saying no. I want to finish my sentence.
Okay, I think the issue is this, right? Stardust doesn't interpret. It's quite clear, right? Stardust doesn't interpret what she's doing as what's called a shit test, but you do interpret it as
No,
that.
that's not
right?
what I'm saying.
Okay, right. What are you saying?
I'm saying.
I'm listening.
Okay.
You are.
From now on, if you allow me to interrupt you or clarify something, that is not a point that you get to pull out later and use to interrupt me at a random time. It's called consent. My point that I'm making is that what you're describing, I'm calling a test. I don't think we really have a disagreement about what is physically happening. You're saying, if you do this thing, then you're gone. I put you in this situation, or I respond this way. If you don't like it, you're gone. I think calling that a test may sound unfair or unkind, and that's fine if you don't like that word. But the argument last time felt like you were arguing about, like, you couldn't even understand why I would call it that.
No, I clarified several times throughout that conversation. For other people, it may be a test. That you can find a clip of me in there saying several times, For other people, it may be a test. For me, it is not a test. For me, it is a need. It's a request, and if it's a request that it can't be filled, that's fine. And the whole reason of me bringing up the 4.5 years thing is I am willing to stay single if they're basic requirements that I need, right?
Yes,
I'm willing to stay single.
That's what a test is. So a test can be a request. A test can...
What Stardust should say here is Stardust should say, yeah, it's a test. Is there it's a test. There's nothing wrong with testing, right? Like tests are fine. Like you should always be testing, and we always do kind of testing. You know, can somebody show up on time for a date might even be like a type of test, or asking somebody where they want to go might be a type of test. Or asking somebody about their friends or their hobbies. These